Hello, hello, work wifey. How's it going?
It's going, it's going. I sound like this because I am currently getting over a really bad cold after Adrian and I traveled to Denver last week as of recording, and it was incredible. We recorded an episode while we are there, and that'll come out at some point. But I got sick.
Supposed to come out today, but
But we don't have the file yet. But I got sick and I'm only just starting to feel a little bit better. So I sound like this, but I'm feeling human again. So I guess I'll take that as a win.
Perfect.
Yeah. How about
Gonna play a
you?
game? I'm okay. I mean,
You
we're
got a
about to get a
hurricane,
hurricane,
right?
so
So
things
you've
have been
got more going
better. I
on,
have two children home now,
right?
so and tomorrow because the public schools are closed and it's like fine outside, but they use the schools as shelters
Right.
for evacuation zones. So like all my
Which makes
mom friends are
sense.
are very annoyed that the kids are home, but I'm like, but they're using the schools for shelters, so I get
Yeah.
why.
And also, like, things can turn on a dime, right?
Yes, they can. So we're prepped, we're ready, just waiting
Better to be
to see
safe
if
than
we're gonna
sorry.
flood. Yeah.
They do that here in the winter. If they're calling for ice during the day, they won't do school buses all day because they don't want the kids to
Right.
get stuck at school
Stuck.
and the buses can't run in the afternoon. So I get
Yeah,
it.
it's frustrating. It's
Safe
just
than
like,
sorry. It's not worth it,
that's right.
but it is annoying.
Yeah, when you look outside and you're like,
Yeah,
why did they call it for this?
I
It's
know.
like, well, it's not really for this. It's for
What's to
the
come.
people who live, yeah, and the people who live in trailers and evacuation zones that
Right.
need to
Basement
be
apartments.
evacuated.
Oh, I guess you don't have basements. Never
No,
mind.
no, that would be underwater already. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Cool.
this was like not the week for Florida to give me a hurricane
Right.
because I just came back from Colorado and I was already presenting my proposal to Tyler of how we need to move. Like I was like, here's why we should do this and here's what we should do with the houses. Like I researched it all on my flight home.
And you're ready to move. We found
I
some
was like,
great houses on Zillow.
I found some great houses. I even listened to this other podcast called The Money with Katie that one of my friends
Yes.
recommended, and there was like a rent versus own in 2023, and she kind of
Right.
went through each
Option.
option, financial situation, and like what's going to be the best move for you. And I was like, actually we should probably rent if we first move there because who knows if we'll even like it. We don't
If you
want
like
to
the
buy
area.
something.
Yeah,
Exactly,
totally.
like we don't know the area, so like we should probably just rent and then maybe even rent this house out and then it will cover our mortgage over or our rent price over there in
Yeah.
Colorado. Like I had all of
You were
it.
ready.
I was ready to present. I presented it. He shot it down per
As he does.
usual.
He'll come around.
He'll come around,
He'll have no choice.
but then the hurricane came and I'm like, they're just making my case even stronger. So I just got to put a PowerPoint together now.
Right. Because this is early for hurricane, right?
With the hurricane in the proposal
Right.
and the days
And
off
the
of
heat.
school and the heat and all these things, the flooding. If we flood here,
Game over.
I'm putting
Bye.
pictures in the presentation of that.
I'll help you.
Thank you. But they have some really nice rentals in Colorado that I think are going to be a great fit for us. So
Yeah. And then do you know what we could do? We could go to Disneyland.
in California, I've never
Yeah.
been. So
I went once and it was incredible and I would love
oh,
to go
really?
again. So
Is it better than Disney World?
it's different. It's
Oh,
so much
okay.
smaller, but
Oh, really?
oh yeah, it's much, much smaller.
Oh.
But it was incredible and I would love to go again. I actually went for work and they bought me a Disney World ticket and I went from or Disneyland, I went from like 4 p.m. to midnight.
Oh, wow.
And I just I was alone and so I did like
Oh,
single
that's
rider for
fun.
everything. So I got to ride all the rides and I ate a Dole Whip and a Mickey pretzel and it was great.
That's
And then
so
I almost
fun.
missed my flight the next day because I was overslept.
That's
So yeah.
amazing.
Anyway,
Well, we'll do that. You want to play a
perfect.
game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I have this game that we're gonna play where there's these like buzzwords, like
Okay.
work buzzwords
Okay.
of 2023, and you have to let me know if you know like what you think it means.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is, let's see, rage applying. What
When you
is rage
hate
applying?
when you hate your job, so you just go apply to all the other jobs that you can find on LinkedIn.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a thing
It's a
apparently
real
that people
thing.
are
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, quiet hiring. We've talked about that one before,
Yeah.
right?
Internal hiring, rebalancing the team essentially.
Yes. What about loud quitters?
Loud quitting? Is that just like flipping a table and being like, I quit? Like, what is
Kind
that?
of like
Yeah.
they're like really like, wait, loud quitting at their jobs. Oh, that's not what it is, but that's what
Okay.
I would have guessed too. Okay, so the Gallup workplace report found that roughly 1 in 5 workers are loud quitting at their jobs, which just means they're actively disengaged at work versus as opposed to quiet quitters who are simply not engaged.
Oh.
They're detached from the organization, but also emotionally against the organization, and they'll be vocal about it. The loud quitting employees are going to be much, much more likely to take another job pretty quickly if it becomes available, and they won't need as much money to do that. That's interesting. So kind of what you were saying, right? Like,
yeah, I'm done with
what
this.
about a grumpy stayer?
Oh, like
What's the difference between
95%
a
of the
grumpy stayer and a loud quitter, right?
somebody who's just like in a terrible mood all the time, but still just doesn't leave. I think that's like
they're
95% of the
staying, but they're not
workforce.
happy about it.
Yeah.
Bare minimum Monday.
Me. Just kidding. I do a lot on Mondays. It's like, but I feel Monday's surprising. I feel like most people are bare minimum Fridays.
That's true. Maybe it's both.
Yeah.
This one was coined by a TikToker who popularized the term, saying that this is a way to resist the Sunday scaries and the pressure that many people feel to hit the ground running full speed when they return to work again on Monday. And she says, the second I got rid of the pressure and allowed myself to have whatever kind of day unfolded, I was able to do stuff.
Interesting. I don't know if I agree with
like personal pressure.
For me personally, I do not agree with people who like work for an hour on Sunday to clear their inbox so that their Monday is. No. I'm like, no. Like that's Monday's job. Monday's job is to clear your inbox. Right. But I feel like Monday is the perfect day to clear your inbox, organize your week, have your team meetings, maybe do some light project management. And like by Monday afternoon at 2, then you're digging into like your first project of the week. And I feel like if you don't do that stuff, we're going to do that on Tuesday. So what are you going to do on Monday? What a waste of a day.
Yeah, apparently they're doing it on Sunday.
But then I have to work, but then I feel like if we had then you would have to work on Friday because you didn't do anything on Monday. I'd rather like hit the ground running and run out of steam as the week goes on. That's how it works.
Right.
You know, although we never run out of steam
on Monday. Because we don't work Fridays.
No, having a 4-day work week means I actually never run out of steam.
Right.
Like I get to the end of the workday on Thursday and I'm like, I feel like I gave just as much effort as I give on a Monday. And I'm so happy that the work week is done that it's great.
Close it up.
Close it up. Yeah.
All right. What is chaotic working? This one's, I have
no idea. I've never heard that one before.
Okay. This one is also known as malicious compliance, and it involves employees using their position at work to help customers or clients at the employer's expense.
Yes, I have heard of malicious compliance and I love it. I think it's especially effective in hospitality and retail.
Oh, interesting. It says, though it often entails breaking some rules, workers may do it without fear of repercussion because they're simply fed up with their job, their employer, or the general state of work.
It's like the customer's always right. So here's 20 orders of fries instead of 1. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I don't care about like someone comes into Starbucks and like they want because you know how Starbucks gives a free refill. This is like a little known fact that if you stay in store, no matter what drink you get, you can get a refill of like a regular coffee.
Yeah.
But they'll give like 20 refills because they just like don't care, you know?
Yeah, because what do they care, right?
Yeah. If the customer's always right, then it's like, okay, sure, these fries are old. Like, here's 20 orders of fries. Here's 10 orders of like they just don't care.
Amazing.
But they can find like a loophole to make it kind of how we say at Clockwork. If you are following the company values, you're not wrong.
Right.
Malicious compliance, you know?
Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. This is what the values say I should do. And if that's not correct, then maybe we need to tweak the values or create a guiding principle.
Exactly. That prohibits me from giving away 20 orders of fries. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What would you call the girl who was working hospitality when we were on our trip and we tried to buy gummy bears and there was a hole in one
Oh
of the
my
bags and then she
gosh.
ate the gummy.
That I could not believe what I was watching. We tried these sour gummy bears. They're so good. And I was gonna buy a bag to take home. And Adrian bought them for me because she's ridiculous and buys everything. And I like at the counter and I'm like, the side seam, there was a hole in it. And I was like, oh, we're just gonna get a different bag. We're not gonna take this one.
Because
And
it's
she's like,
open.
because it's open, like it had
Yeah.
popped open. And she's
Yeah.
like, okay. And she like goes and puts it under the counter, but I see her stick her hand in the bag and put one in her mouth. And then as she finishes checking us out, she's chewing.
Yeah, she ate them.
It was wild. And I was like,
know?
that's gross. But then also like, I wonder if like it just the socioeconomic like backstory potentially that it's like she can't afford gummy bears, so she's eating. Or I could just be adding too much to it, but I'm like, it's so sad that that's the way she's getting the gummy bears.
I mean, but if they were just gonna go in the trash, like I probably would have ate them too.
I would have waited
I
until I was not in front of the customers, though.
That's true. I would have waited because I would have
Yeah.
been embarrassed, but she
Yeah.
wasn't. So good for her.
No, good for her. Yeah.
All right. What about shift shock?
I don't know what that means. Never heard of that one.
It's a phenomenon that can also go by other names, such as new hires remorse, where they start a job with a ton of excitement only to realize that it wasn't what they expected.
It's not like everyone all the time.
Said 72% of respondents have that experience. So
yeah.
That's a lot. Right?
Yeah.
The next one is boomerang employees.
They leave and come back?
Yeah. Career cushioning.
Oh, I don't know.
This trend involves workers starting to look for other jobs while still in their current roles.
That's just like everyday life. That's how you do it.
Cushioning or recession proofing.
Oh, that's the smart
I thought that's
way.
what everyone did. Like literally when I was, in my 20s or like when I got my first job, my dad was like, always be looking, always be putting your application in.
Right.
Places. And
you still doing it to this day?
Yeah. I actually looked at some job applications the other day and I sent one to Tyler. I was like, I think I would be perfect for this role.
Don't
he
you
was
dare.
like, but are you going to apply? And I was like, not right now, but it's good to know that like there are
if anything were to happen
that I might be interested in, right?
Life is long.
Okay, last one. Let's do this one as our last one.
Okay.
Lazy girl jobs.
My job. No, just kidding. What is it?
It says, popularized by TikToker Gabrielle Judge, lazy girl jobs typically refer to low stress jobs that still pay well.
Sign me up. Can I find one?
Oh, like what's an example?
Yeah, what's an example? I mean, I feel like Run Like Clockwork.
It says the problem with having the lazy girl job is that they're the first ones to get laid off when times get tough.
Yeah.
True.
Womp womp.
They're not really necessary.
Yeah.
All right, that was my game. I thought it would be fun.
I
saw that article and I was like,
how hip are we?
What are all the
Are we the cool moms?
Basically? Are we the cool career moms or no?
I think we're pretty cool.
Did pretty good.
Yeah, I knew most of them. I spent too much time on TikTok, so I'm not surprised.
Okay.
As I was sick, I was so proud of myself when I was at the cottage because my screen time like plummeted to nothing, and I actually had a great week. And then, when I was sick, my screen time just went like right back up to max capacity.
For sure.
Because like I couldn't read because I had a headache. You know what I mean? And there's only so much Housewives and Below Deck that I could watch. And so then I was scrolling the TikTok I'm starting to get like Halloween and fall craft ideas on TikTok. And
love that for you.
I'm ready.
I'm ready for fall. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you lived in Colorado, there'd be fall.
Yeah. I know. Everyone's already telling me that the leaves are changing and where they live.
The leaves are starting to change here ever so slightly. There's already red maple leaves on the ground. Oh, Canada.
I want to talk about it.
Okay.
I'm about to get flooded and it's still 90+ degrees here. So
I'm sorry.
And Tyler was like, oh, but at least the hurricane will cool things off. later this week. And then we looked at how cool it's supposed to be. 89. I was like, that's not any cooler. Like, that is a cruel trick that this hurricane is playing on me.
I'm
Because normally,
sorry.
yeah, it should cool off for a few days.
Right.
Once the hurricane like takes the nope.
Just staying hot, just brewing another hurricane, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
All right.
worst.
Should we do some
Okay.
stories?
Let's do it.
Have one
Okay.
that's very
Timely.
relevant to what's going on today in Florida. This is from a personal contact, but they shall remain anonymous.
Okay.
As will their company. So there's a hurricane coming, right?
Yeah.
And they're charging them for PTO. So just like when the office is closed on holidays, but this isn't a damn holiday. She said, I work at a large healthcare system in Florida and we're being charged for PTO tomorrow because they're closed for the hurricane. This one
is
I'm pissed.
Wild to me.
I'm pissed. We talked about PTO recently.
We did. And how and we started the episode feeling one way and then we're like,
actually, but that one was different, I feel like, because it was a closure that they had decided on in advance.
A couple weeks in advance, yeah.
A couple weeks in advance, at least. This one is like, it's a hurricane and this is a corporation. Like, hurricanes are something that
in Florida that you deal with,
that you plan
annually.
For. I was like, this is something that they can work into their budget. Like, they know
every year you're going to get
at least one where we have to take 1 or 2 days off. So put that into your budget for, we're going to have to pay everyone for this day.
Because it's the cost of doing business in Florida.
That's what I said. I was like, this is the cost of doing business in Florida. This is the risk you take as being a business owner, a very big, wealthy business owner at that. This is not some small business that can't afford to pay these people for 1 day because of the hurricane. Like, this is, I'm outraged that you would be charged for PTO because of a hurricane, that they're closed. I think it's wild that they don't put this into their budget for, like, of course we're going to have at least 1 day off. So let's just budget for it and not make people spend their PTO.
And do they have the option, do they have the option to take an unpaid day? Not that that's the answer. I'm just curious if,
I would assume.
Yeah.
I guess.
Because what if they're out of PTO?
Exactly. I guess you would just take an unpaid day.
You just then don't get paid. Yeah.
I just think for something like a hurricane that you can predict in Florida is going to happen, you budget at least 1 or 2 days into the budget so that you know it's going to happen.
They're non-transferable. It's like here in Ontario, you get like sick days, personal days. In Florida, you get like 2 hurricane days, and they don't carry over. If we don't have a hurricane, you can't use them.
Exactly.
And we're very clear that, like, we've budgeted for 2 hurricane days. If we have 5 hurricanes, you do
have to use the PTO or whatever,
or unpaid day or whatever. Yeah. Wow. That's wild.
I just think should be in their budget for like a large system like that. Like, this is probably the biggest healthcare system in the area. So
it's not a surprise that there's going to be a hurricane. Like, how many were there last year? 3?
Yeah, 2 or 3 that we had to,
like, serious,
at least prep for. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So I think she should write a letter.
Of course she should.
I
don't know to who, but
I was like, I think you should write it to HR, the COO, because they're managing some sort of the budget, the CFO, because they're also managing the budget. Like, this is a budget complaint, right? Like, this is, you didn't budget appropriately and now I'm suffering for it, which is not fair.
Totally.
Like, we take care, like, it's a healthcare system. So, like, we're here taking care of people and you're not taking care of us.
Right. I saw a TikTok today about like a nurse in St. Pete who was like, we're in the flood zone. So they were like packing up their van and they're like, and I've been called into the hospital, and they're basically saying, like, once you're there, like, you're locked in, like, you can't leave. You're on shift for like 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I have to bring like all my personal things and hope. And then I go to the hospital and I'm stuck there. It's like, brutal.
Wild.
Florida.
So that's that.
Yep.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. It's brutal.
Sorry, I can't help you, but I think you should complain.
Absolutely. Okay. Next one, next story I found, or it's a question. I found a few examples of it on Reddit, but a question. Is a PIP, a performance improvement plan, the beginning of the end, or can people turn it around? So this was like a thread on Reddit. So what's your opinion? This was one of the comments. I don't think there's any job where a PIP isn't the beginning of the end. I used to work at a corporate tech company that I placed a friend on a PIP for missing quota by $7. They literally have a line outside of a certain suite in the office at the end of every month, and we called that death row. Another person shared, I would get feedback from my new manager every day, that my work was never enough. There was always something new. I wasn't doing well enough. In the end, despite busting my butt in a role I had done very well, and my quarterly performance reviews could attest to that, I was put on a PIP by a brand new manager who had it out for me, and within a month I was fired. Taught me this point. If you get put on a PIP, they want you gone. What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's interesting because I kind of agree that like the PIP is the beginning of the end, and they're doing their due diligence
right,
to have it on paper, right? So that they have a real solid reason to let you go. But all that
and proof that they tried.
Proof that they tried to help you turn it around, and that you're not surprised when they do fire you, which I think is all actually really important. Even if like it's way better to put someone on a PIP and they know what's coming versus they're just fired, right? For poor performance that they weren't aware of. So I agree with it could be the beginning of the end, but mostly because I think people have a hard time turning it around, you know, like, and keeping it turned around. Because the other thing is like, I've had people on PIPs before and they did turn it around, and they,
for the length of the PIP,
for the life of the PIP, and then maybe shortly after, but then they were unable to maintain for long term after that. And so it's like, maybe that person is just in the wrong role, or it's just not a good fit because they're not going to meet your expectations long term. And I think you have to come to terms with, why are you unable to meet their expectations? Is it, again, like, is it a bad fit, or are their expectations unreasonable? But I think there's always the opportunity to turn it around. I just think it's very rare, unless it's like something that's going on in their life that's causing them to, for some reason, like not be able to perform the way they normally do. But if this is kind of like how they normally perform, then it's going to be really hard for them to turn it around to meet your expectations. And so it is kind of the beginning of the end. But I'd rather have that advanced warning and start, what's it called? Something cushioning.
Career cushioning.
And start applying for other jobs. If you get a PIP.
If I was put on a PIP, I would start looking for other jobs. I would just consider it advance notice. Because I also feel like emotionally, for me, the damage is done. Like, you've already seen me as an employee who does not meet the mark for long enough that I've had to be put on a PIP. Because also we have to remember, like, a PIP is generally not the first you're hearing of. It's literally like the last like the third step, you know, in the process. So you've probably already had conversations. You've probably had like other things. So it feels like, to me, it's, if we get to that point, like someone else commented, I know they say you should stay and let them fire you because then you can go on unemployment. But this person's like, I was so miserable, I just left. I quit immediately as soon as I was put on the PIP. So like, it should never be a surprise that you're put on one. And I can honestly say, if I was ever put on a PIP, if it ever got to that point, I don't think it would even get to that point. Because if I was having those conversations beforehand and like the same things were not improving, I probably would have already moved on. Or started looking elsewhere, you know? Especially if I feel like the reasons that I'm being put on a PIP or put on watch are not warranted. I'd be like, oh, I clearly am not a fit for this company. So, but to what people are saying, like, you cannot get unemployment if you quit. So, if you really feel like they're holding you to it like an impossible standard, and the PIP is just a way to get you out, and you can withstand it, like, and you can't find another job, like, don't quit because then you have no
Technically, you could
protection.
just go there and do nothing, right? If you're on the
Well,
PIP
you
and
look
then
for other
get fired.
jobs.
Yeah.
Like then they fire you. Like
Yeah. Which is not the right thing to do, but
but I also think like
it's
they were
a
trying to
thing
protect
do.
themselves by following the process. They can't, I mean, some states they can just fire people, right? Like no warning, none of this stuff. They just fire people.
It's like a no cause. I think that Florida is actually like a no cause state or something where we could just like fire people just because we want to. But I would never do that just because again, like you're saying, not only is the PIP a way to make sure that the firing is not a surprise, but the PIP should not even be a surprise because we should have multiple warnings before the PIP even happens. And so if we're communicating well with our team members, hopefully they're turning it around or at least having conversation of like, the expectations that you have for me are actually very unrealistic. Here's why. Like, let's have that conversation before I put you on a PIP because you're not meeting my expectation. Maybe my expectations are unrealistic. So I'm always erring on the side of like more communication about why we're not doing what we, want to be doing. But I guess if we were gonna sum it up, the PIP is the beginning of the end. So
I
would love to know if people who are listening, we'll post it over on Instagram. Like, have you ever had a PIP and turned it around? Or like, has anyone that you know turned it around? Or is the PIP the beginning of the end? We'll do a poll or something.
The formality. Yeah. For me, it'd be the beginning of the end. If you ever are like, oh, I gotta write up a PIP for Emily, just tell me this is my 1 month's notice because
don't even try to turn it around.
No, at that point, it's not going to,
It would, like you'd have to do something really wild.
What would get me put on a PIP? Attitude, I think, more than anything.
I think, it would have to be something related to like you having an attitude with another team member or something that.
But that would be a conversation one.
Yes. But and like then if you didn't, then you'd like.
There'd be probably another conversation.
Like, F you to like, I don't know, like if you had like continuous like radical behavior with another team member or something, then maybe that's going to get you on a PIP.
But I think that would have actually just get me fired.
I know. I don't know what would get you on a PIP.
I don't know what would get me on a PIP. I wonder. Let's like never find out.
Doing your work, like maybe not hitting your deadlines and then like continuing to not hit your deadlines, but tell me that you're going to hit your deadlines or something.
I feel like I would have to be a completely different person to be. I don't think I'm the type of person, and I'm not saying this is like I'm the best, who gets put on a PIP because I over communicate.
Yeah.
Like I have a big fear of like, I will communicate to death sometimes. Yeah. So I don't think I would allow myself to be put in a position where I was like hiding things or like, if I was not going to meet a deadline, I have no fear coming to you and being like, my life is falling apart. I'm not going to meet these deadlines.
Right.
And
or I'm not putting you on a PIP for that. Yeah.
This work is really, really hard and I'm really struggling in it. I'm not going to hit this deadline.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, let me help you,
Right.
I think the only thing I could put on a PIP
is like, are there certain types of people that get put on PIPs and do they deserve it?
Oh, it's an interesting question. I think there are definitely
I don't think I could ever get put on a PIP unless there was like some wild manager. No. Right? Like,
like some unhinged situation, of course.
Like I'm not going to let myself get to that point because that's just the type of person I am. Like I will work extra or like just to make it happen or I will over communicate on like I'm not gonna make that happen, but here's what I'm doing instead. Like
I need help, I'm struggling, like I have no problem being like I am drowning, save me,
right, versus just like,
but I'm not a perfectionist.
I'm not a perfectionist either.
But I think perfectionists don't struggle to say I am failing at this, I need help. They like hold up their perfectionist facade until eventually you can see through it. And then you're like, but you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me, or you know what I mean? You didn't ask for help. You didn't show any weaknesses. Pardon me, you're showing any cracks. And
but you didn't want us to see. So
yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like on the Enneagram, there'd be certain numbers that are more likely to put on a PIP in a general sense, like a 1.
Yeah.
Perfectionist. I'd say maybe a 7. here for a good time, not a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're just wild.
They're just gonna like get themselves through it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
maybe an 8 because of like
clash
the clash of personalities potentially, when they're just like communicating how they want to be communicated to, but they may not understand that like that's not okay, or other people don't appreciate that.
If I could be put on a PIP for anything, it would probably be crying too much. Well, I haven't cried in a long time. So.
But yeah, I'm interested. Like, what type of people get put on a PIP?
Yeah.
So we're going to do a poll, and then we're going to do a question box on Instagram. So you better go follow us on Instagram, which is @DearWorkWives.
Yeah.
And talk to us, because we talk back over there.
Yeah. And if you were like, what the heck are these girls saying? Because we glossed at it really fast. A PIP is a performance improvement plan.
That would be really sad if we went through that whole thing saying PIP 400 times and we didn't explain it.
I said it at the beginning, but I said it really fast. But it's a performance improvement plan.
Yeah. So it's like literally a
document.
Like usually like a 1-page document where the person kind of gets written up and told like, here's the things that you need to improve on by X date. Here's like the milestones or metrics you need to be meeting. Otherwise, you'll be terminated typically by X date if these things don't improve.
Anyway, fascinating.
I like it. I like the discussion around it. It's interesting.
Okay. Last one for today. This is another kind of question. Someone asked. I
like the questions.
Yeah, me too. If in a small organization without HR, who do you complain to? So the story, I work for a very small nonprofit. Despite our small size, we have 2 directors, both of whom have been with the organization for more than 20 years. The rest of the positions have been a revolving door. I'm the longest serving staff member, and I've been here less than 2 years. 3 of my colleagues have left in as many months. When the second of the 3 left, they reach out to the board president about how management negatively affects the workplace. And when the third left, the president reached out to them to get their story, which was similar. The press said, "I wish you had come to me sooner with these concerns." So where do they go?
That was going to be my suggestion, is especially for a nonprofit, they usually have boards. Like I am on the board of a nonprofit that I support, right? So
which nonprofit is it? Put it in here. The Adventure Project.
Called the Adventure Project. You can go to theadventureproject.org if you would like to support. We support entrepreneurship in developing countries because jobs creation is what's going to pull people out of poverty.
Yes.
Not handouts. So, but I'm on the board of that nonprofit, which, you know, if there was something, and I think this is true with nonprofits, with small businesses, like if you're having HR issues, and it's because of the manager, because of the founder, it's really challenging to get anything done. And so this outside body, like the board, is a really important avenue. It's also like for nonprofits, also we have, you know, ways that we can contribute, advice that we give, and we keep the financials in check. So they come to us to like make sure like we're spending this money. How does that look? So that there's kind of like a checks and balances, so to speak. And so it is there for checks and balances, even as that relates to management. So absolutely, if you work for something like a nonprofit, go to the board, because they can at least have conversations, non-biased conversations with management to see like what's going on. If you're in a small business, a lot of times they don't have a board. So that becomes more challenging, right? And it sounded like there was 2 founders in this scenario, so I would maybe go to one, if the other one is the one causing the issues, so that you can communicate like what's going on, what's the dynamic. At some point though, if you're in a small business and you're having continued HR issues, you have to recognize that this is probably not going to be the place for you.
No, because it's coming from the top.
It's coming from the top. And if they're not willing to change, if you've gone to, I think the first thing to do always in any situation is to go to the person directly and communicate like, here's what's going on. Like, here's my challenge with you, or the way that we're communicating with each other, or this is how I feel when X happens. I think you have to be direct in that communication, see what their response is, see if they're receptive, see if they have any self-awareness or interest in improving or changing. And if not, you got to start, I forgot the word again, something cushioning.
Career cushioning.
Career cushioning. Why can I not remember that? You got to start
Yeah.
career cushioning and start looking for another job because your values don't line up with what's going on, and it's very unlikely to change if they're not receptive or responsive to your initial conversation.
Agreed.
And I think you have to, give them the opportunity to change, unless it's something like sexual harassment or something like that.
Out.
Like you're out, and
go to the
also
labor board.
legal. Yeah, like labor board. Go to a lawyer, right? Like these are things that are obviously more extreme than just maybe you disagreeing with someone or not getting along with a different personality type.
Yeah.
But if they're not receptive to the conversation, then it's probably not going to change. Most people are not very self-aware, we learned a little bit about emotional intelligence and podcasting last week at Podcast Movement, but most people don't have really high EQ, right? Emotional intelligence. And so they don't even recognize that they're
the problem.
They're the problem, right? And so they're not going to change if they don't even recognize they're the problem. So I'd be looking for a new job if you don't have some of those other avenues to hold that person accountable, because you're not going to be able to be the person that holds that person accountable from a position of less power.
Yeah. Agreed.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think the problem too is like most people, it's like, it's not that they don't think that they're like, they don't see a problem with how they are. They love who they are. They're quite happy in their belief.
That's
in
how
their
they
beliefs
think
and values
are going to get done. Maybe they have evidence from the past of getting things done in that way. Maybe they lead through fear. Maybe they, like people have different leadership styles. Sometimes that works for them. Maybe it doesn't work for you.
And sometimes it works for other people.
Assess. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it works for other people. Actually, I'm watching on Netflix Untold, which is a story about swamp kings, which I know it sounds crazy, but it is about the University of Florida, which is where I went to school, and our dynasty of a football program when I was there. So it's actually bringing me a lot of nostalgia. I was like on the edge of the couch. Every time Tyler would come down, he's like, you're like closer and closer to the TV every time I come down. I'm like, I'm like in my glory days right now. And like by the time I was trying to go to bed, I was like, how am I supposed to sleep? We just won a national championship. Like on the show. But they go really behind the scenes into Urban Meyer, who was our coach at the time. They go really into his leadership style and what he was doing to get these kids in shape and get them in a position where they were ready and able and mentally prepared to win a national championship. And it was bad. Like the way that, they were spoken to, the way that they were trained, like, but they were so thankful for it. Like the top performers were like, that's just what that's just like part of it. Like, that is how you win around here, right? And not every coach leads like that. And Urban Meyer at least was very honest when he was recruiting these kids. He said, this is going to be the hardest football program that you will ever be in. It will be the hardest in the country. If you don't want to do it, don't come here, right? Like go somewhere else, go to LSU, go to Alabama, go somewhere else, because I am going to
style.
Style, right? And so I think that it's okay to have different leadership styles. Not everyone is going to agree with them. Not everyone is going to mesh with them, but some people perform better in them. And you just have to know when it's time to call it quits and find someone who's maybe better matching your style of being motivated. Like what motivates you, I think is a really important question. And it can be a really good question for the interview process. Like, how do you motivate your team here? Like, what are the ways that you motivate people? And
what motivates
see if
you,
it matches the style. But you have to first understand for yourself, like, what motivates you. Like, I actually am very motivated by competition, by like hard coaching. Like I like when I'm in like athletic training, like I want someone to yell at me. I want someone to correct my form. I want, like, that is how I do better. I like to be pushed, but not everyone likes that. So I think that you have to really understand what is going to make you be your best and know when to leave too.
Yeah, I agree.
long rant, but you should also, if you're into football, especially college
Watch it.
football,
Yeah.
it's worth a watch.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. No notes. I mean, I'm not motivated by that stuff.
By someone yelling at you.
And
Yeah,
I
can see
definitely
that.
think that there's like some psychological things that people should look into, like why we're all motivated by the way we're
Fair.
motivated.
Maybe
Like
I
what?
am motivated by someone yelling at me is probably a mental illness, but
I mean, but like I'm motivated by like fear and loss, so like that's not healthy either. Like, but anyway, good times.
I'm motivated by being my best. And I guess that like, yeah, for me to be my best in an athletic setting, I do.
You've learned.
I'm okay to be yelled at. Yeah.
You have evidence that's shown that works.
Even though like I'm annoyed at it at the time, I'm like, F you, like in the back of my head, but I'm not stopping because I also like to prove something to people.
Oh,
that is part of my personality.
I am motivated by not being viewed as like weak or the worst in the class.
Yeah,
like on Peloton, I always have like I will not fall below a certain percentage of in the class performance,
I can't even look at that
not so much anymore.
I'm so bad. Like,
yeah,
I'm so slow and bad after having babies that haven't like got back
into
to it,
competitiveness of it.
And yeah, like so I can't even look at it because it'll just piss me off and I'll get really depressed. So I'm like,
yeah. But if I was there yelling at you, would it help?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, perfect.
I would go faster. If there were other people in the room, I would go faster.
Yeah.
Like if I go to a group fitness class, like I need everyone to know I'm the best. So
100%.
I'm going to be the best.
Yeah.
Even though if I'm at home doing that same workout, like,
no.
But I think that I'm doing my best when I'm at home. Like I'm trying hard.
Yeah. And then you go and realize
people, you'll see how hard I really can try.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're an entrepreneur. External motivations.
Totally.
Or internally motivated by external validation.
Yes, that.
Yeah. Wow. I'll be invoicing you for this therapy session as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Perfect.
What have we learned though? What should I do about it?
Go to real therapy.
Someone to come yell at me. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, that was a great episode.
Well,
sorry
it's out late today, but
I know I'm gonna immediately post it.
Yeah, it's right now live today. So come see us over on Instagram at Dear Workwives. Also, if you please would share this podcast with someone that would benefit from it. It'll make you look like a really good friend as well. I always love when people share good stuff with me.
Right.
And follow us, right? Because if you follow us on whatever app that you're using to listen to podcasts, it will also make sure that you see our episodes as soon as they get posted, like how this one's a little bit late today.
Yeah.
But we're still here. It's still Tuesday.
I did actually have someone message being like, is there no episode today? So that felt nice.
Oh my gosh, it's coming.
I'm like, it's coming. Yeah.
We better get it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.